Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com, and welcome to RAWtalk episode number 37. This week we've got Steven's news. We've got a big discussion about Flickr and Melissa Mayer and all of the other things that happened in the Flickrverse and newsverse. Before we get into an interview that I did with Adam Lerner when he sat down at the RAWtalk table a couple of days ago to talk about his Cuba trip. It's going to be a good discussion. I hope you guys stay tuned and enjoy that. But let's take it on to Steven. Let's take it on to Steven, as in let's turn to Steven and see what he has to say. But before I'm just interrupting you so people can yell at me for interrupting, because I do that all the time. Did you enjoy my rap before this?
I did.
Should I do it again?
Sure, why not?
You want to hear it? You ready?
I'm ready.
It's part of the theme music that goes in at the beginning.
Should I beatbox?
No. No, Matis Yahoo. I'm going to try to have Matis come on, by the way. You ready?
Yes.
I shoot raw, don't crop headshots from the top. I just know my ass stops like criminals, no cops. I don't need flash to make the colors pop. I just rely on natural lighting and the Photoshop. Screw Mercedes-Benz. I got the biggest lens and only shoot with... Steven?
Nikon?
Nikon.
I don't know the rap.
You don't know the rap?
No.
And then it comes back, all those jokers, they don't know their candid shots, they sure do blow. Shit knocks them down like dominoes. The fro knows photos. He actually added the S on that one. And then it comes back and it's like, yeah, now my fingertips are critical. So ladies, let's get physical. My monopod is pivotal, just like my site. No, I don't use pomade. My hair stands so straight. And custom-made pics maintain the shape. Now back to the photos. You know where to go. The song is the title of my domain name. And then repeat, repeat. And there is no third set stance. Anyway, news. We are here with Steven's news. I know you were watching my levels over there.
I was.
How'd they look?
They look good.
Steven is a master at level watching.
I try.
You good. All right, Steven, news.
Slow news week. Very slow news week. There wasn't much going on besides the something big at Flickr happening, obviously. But to kick it off, I'm going to say some really interesting news to start off. NASA's Mars Curiosity rover sent over a bunch of raw images from the red planet, Mars.
They still need to call me back.
Yeah.
I have a call into them. I'm still waiting.
We need to do a RAWtalk with that guy.
Yes.
But anyway, a YouTuber put it into a time-lapse video basically showcasing all the photos that were beamed from up to 250 miles away. I still don't understand how they do that.
Wait.
How they have that kind of technology.
No, wait. 250...
million miles away.
You said million?
Yeah.
I thought you said miles. I think you forgot the million.
Okay, well, million miles.
That's 250 million miles.
Insane.
They beam back some raw files. Yep. This is why I want to get them on. I want to know the technology down to the... I don't want to know all the geeky technology.
Yeah.
Just tell me that there's a low pass filter, low gain, what's it, a high gain and a low gain transmitter and blah, 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 and then they bounce it off the moon and around Uranus and then all the way back to Earth.
I don't understand it, but apparently it's 14-bit raw images. And
really?
Like I was saying, yeah, a YouTuber put them into a pretty cool time-lapse video showcasing just all the photos that the rover took. And it's equipped with a front avoidance hazard camera, or called a HazCam. Yeah.
That's annoying, right?
And it's just been snapping black and white photos pretty much ever since it landed. So.
And then when they do color, I'm pretty sure they colorize them and put filters on them.
Yeah. Apparently before they post them, they go through and edit them and then send it back.
That's cool.
Yeah. Some really interesting stuff. Also, an in-depth behind-the-scenes video of a photo shoot for the football team, the South Carolina Gamecocks. A photographer named James Quantz Jr. I think that's how you pronounce it. Quantz. Quantz.
Quantz.
Jr. He used a Nikon D800 to shoot, and basically he put this behind-the-scenes in-depth video of how he took pictures of the players running. And what he did is he used a black background with fast flashes, obviously, and put some water on the skin, get that oily looking effect, that sweaty effect. And he did this whole behind the scenes video showcasing how he shot it. And the cool thing is that he actually went out and shot the background first, the backdrop, which is the actual field. Then he composited it with the images of the players that he shot in the studio. And he shows you how he did that pretty much from start to finish.
See, that's an interesting thing, this whole composite.
Yeah.
I don't look down at that as a bad thing at all.
No, not at all.
Because you're setting out with an idea to capture something, and you have to capture both of those images. And I know that Ben Lerner does that with the Breaking Bad photos. He does a lot of compositing, but it kind of gives it an interesting dimension. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to do it. I've never done it. And
I've done it once or twice, but I don't usually mess with it that much.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, though. Yeah. I want to go look at those.
Yeah, it's like a 10-minute video or something like that, so you'll probably get some pointers from it. Next up, the Reddit community They joined together to restore a Reddit user named Stephen Wythes. Anyway, his grandfather's formal World War II portrait that was basically stained. It had mug stains around it. It was torn, ripped apart, that kind of stuff. And what he did is he put it up on Reddit. He asked the community to help him out if anyone can restore it or if they have any tips. One person took it, restored it a little bit. Another person took it, restored it even further. It got to the point where about 10 or 15 Redditors, actually restored the entire thing to make it look pristine and perfect condition. Yeah, and it's really cool because he actually posted a video, a behind-the-scenes video, I guess, of him showing his grandfather from the first photograph touched up to the final, and his grandfather was like to the point where he was about to cry. So,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was just a really cool thing. What you can do on the internet these days, how many people are out there to help? How many people have that kind of time on their hands?
Well, then it's positive thing
it's all
came out of the internet. That is true. Anything you like. Speaking of anything can happen on the internet, I got tweeted by Howard Stern.
That's awesome.
As you saw.
Yeah.
He put up, and he was just talking about something, and I just saw it, and I asked him the same question before, like, do you shoot RAW? And in the past, I know that he didn't. He only shot JPEG. But I asked him, like, do you shoot RAW? And then I got a retweet back was, lately, yes. And then he retweeted it to 1.3 million people.
So he actually photographs. He's a photographer.
He has D4s. Yeah, I remember when I used to watch, listen, I mean, I still listen, and he talked about how he never understood photographers. You just push a button. You don't do anything. It's not very hard. And then he quit his chess thing and picked up
photography.
Photography, had a personal instructor guy teaching him everything. And he's got a great model built in with his wife. And
then he realized how tough it is. It's not just pushing a button.
He realized how tough it is, and there's a lot to lighting. And he dove head first into it. And he's done a great job. I mean, for somebody who just started out.
Does he post them on his website?
He does. He tweets them out, his wife photos from time to time, and obviously because who he is, he's gotten some magazine work and covers and things like that. But hey,
it's all about who you know, right?
It's who you know. I mean, they want him to take the photos and come out. It's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that is awesome.
It is pretty cool.
Yeah, I got to check him out because I didn't even know he was a photographer.
Yeah, D4s.
I know the MySpace guy, Tom.
Yeah, Tom's a photographer.
He's a photographer.
The WordPress guy.
Is he?
He's a photographer. Yeah, they're all photographers.
It's just a nice hobby to have when you're loaded in money like those people.
Yeah, they were.
Next up on news, kind of ending or almost ending news right here. A YouTuber decided to put up a video featuring the many different sounds of DSLR shutter sounds, which is pretty cool. And they also added in the frame rate of certain cameras. So they went everywhere from Sonys to Nikons to Canons, and they just showed on the screen with the wavelengths the actual shutter sounds and how different each one sounds. Even the Nikons and the Canons between the same brand still have completely different sounding shutter sounds.
Well, go ahead.
Well, it moves on basically from like a dinky click to from the 30D or a Rebel to the machine gun sounding 1DX. So it's just really, really cool to see the different frame rates of how fast they are and the different sounds.
Well, remind me when we do the full on review of the D4 next to the 1DX that we not only do the wind tunnel test, but we do the sound test and which one we think sounds better.
Beastier.
Because I think the Nikon sounds so much beastier than the
but then when you get that frame rate burst out of that 1DX, 12 frames a second, it's insane. It's literally a machine gun.
I've held the thing down because I got it right here. It's pretty insane.
And then the biggest news story of the week, Flickr has changed their layout. They changed everything. Everything. They got a brand new home screen, a new photo stream layout, which is very similar to 500px and Google Plus Pix, same thing. They have a better search page, which the results appear just like the new photo stream. A new set editor. Their focus is now on basically large full-res images, which is much nicer than their small, compressed on the screen looking images that they had prior. And then the biggest thing is I think you get 1 free terabyte of storage, whether it's a pro account or not. It's just a free terabyte for anyone that joins Flickr, and you get full screen slideshows. There's just a whole bunch of
a lot of stuff,
interesting things they implemented now, which was much neted because they haven't changed the layout. I think since 2005, Flickr really hasn't been touched.
No,
I mean little here and there, but not a whole site makeover.
Right.
And then they also Flickr is rumored to be deeply integrated in Apple's upcoming iOS 7. This will allow easier posting directly from the iPhone, which it's good and bad. But basically they want to open the app. They can do it right from the settings. And so when you go to look at a photo, you can just do, export to Flickr or Facebook or whatever it may be. It's rumored.
Yeah.
Not confirmed, but I see it happening, especially with this whole thing they just put out.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jared, what do you think your thoughts are on like the new Flickr and also the comments by Yahoo CEO Marissa Mayer? Because I know she had some uproar in the community about what she said.
Well, I read, I wake up and I see what Zach Arias posted. He thought that she was totally ripping on professional photographers and taking umbrage to it and thinking that he's worked very hard to become a professional and she just put us all down and lumped us all together. Now, I read it. Let me just read the quote to you first. And it says, "There's no such thing as Flickr Pro today because with so many people taking photographs, there's really no such thing as professional photographers anymore." And I read that and I didn't get angry. I didn't get pissed off because I kind of thought what she was saying was it was a misstatement. She didn't mean to say it that way. That's not what she meant to say. And the way I looked at it, it was definitely taken out of context. And what I saw out of this was she meant to say that there's no difference between Flickr Pro and regular Flickr anymore.
Yeah.
Because everybody's a photographer, and which still says, there's pros, but whatever. And then she comes out and says, because somebody asked her, and it was a misstatement on my part and out of context, was about the terabyte on Flickr and how many photos everyone takes. And to me, that's it. And she answered it head on.
Yeah.
So she didn't try to say, oh, well, let me rephrase it. She just said, I made a mistake. I didn't mean to say it like that. And that's the way I took it. Zach, it went all over the internet what he said in his uproar, which is fine. I didn't read into it as, why would I take offense to that? Who cares?
Yeah.
Really, I don't care. Tell me there's no pro photo. She didn't mean it like that.
I think if he wouldn't have brought it up, or at least phrased it that way, I think a lot of people wouldn't have really taken it that way. Yeah. It's just kind of a different, if you really break it down, like you can see his point of view and then you can see also just.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I see his point of view, but again, before I even read his point of view, I read what she wrote
without
and just
thinking about that.
And I just went, that's a misstatement.
Yeah.
She didn't mean that. And that's how I took it because I didn't need to jump to the negative. But, you talk about them getting it integrated into, how are we on time here?
You're good.
We talk about getting it integrated into Apple. That's one thing. Ari and I were discussing this the other day, and he gave me a statistic, a fact.
Oh, yeah?
From Facebook. And it's right here, and I'm reading it, and it says, by the time Flickr got to 6 billion photos, Facebook was doing that every month.
That's insane.
So Facebook's doing 6 billion photos a month. Flickr didn't ever get there. They finally got there, and by the time they did, Facebook was already blowing them out of the water. So in terms of the layout's fine. You're looking at all the pictures. They're there. What I don't like is there's no in-stream commenting.
Yeah.
You click on a photo and it takes you to another page. You should
drop
look
down or something.
You should hit there should be the mark on the bottom of it. You click that, then you type it right there and you can read through it. Maybe it pops up on the side, but it doesn't take you away from that page because as you're scrolling down, say you're 3/4 of the way done the page and you click on a photo and you hit
start
back
over.
and you have to start back over at the top. That's terrible and that's horrible. The full screen's fine.
Yeah, I know they haven't exactly rolled it out to everyone apparently yet. They're still like working on kinks here and there because when I signed into my Flickr account about 2 days after the announcement, my page was all weird and messed up. Like it wasn't set up how it should be.
Right.
And what I've read is that there's still kinks that they're working out here and there. So
Right,
I don't know if
maybe
they're going
it's
to
there.
implement it later on or if they're going to fix things. They're going to put out some new releases. Maybe this was just the big picture to see first.
It's fine. Too little, too late.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
definitely.
I'm just going to go out there and say, look, Facebook wouldn't even want them. They don't need them. Facebook is where it's at. People are putting up 6 billion photos a month. Flickr just got there at whatever point that they got there. And it was just like, everybody's so social and integrated in Facebook. So what you're going to see is Facebook's going to hit with a major app. They're going to hit with a major photo overhaul to their site because so many people use photo. They own Instagram, so everybody uploads right to Facebook from there. Everybody uploads their photos from their phones. They share them in their timelines. You're going to see an editing program built, and you're going to see
better light box, hopefully.
A what?
A better light box.
Better
building.
light box, better quality images. You're going to see better. You're going to see storage. Maybe there's going to be storage options to store more photos for professionals. But Facebook's going to blow them out of the water.
Yeah.
I have Flickr. It's easy to store there. It's easy to grab photos there and post them on my site. It's a good place for storage. And speaking of storage, I might as well just go down the list.
Yeah.
I printed out on their website instead of listening to everybody else's commentary about what Flickr's doing. I just decided to sit here and I printed out their list. So, Flickr, oh yeah, now that they're giving you 1 terabyte, do you know how much space I've used? I told you earlier.
Like nothing.
I've used 0.026
Well, plus you're
of
also
1 terabyte.
they don't have the raw upload yet,
can't
correct?
upload RAWs.
Yeah, so it's only going to be, or even DNG. I mean, RAW would be almost pointless, but DNG.
You can upload your full res images. So
Yeah.
if you want to go home and you want to export everything and let it run for a couple days and export every single file that you have as a full res JPEG, fully corrected, by all means, go ahead and upload that. It's going to take you forever to fill up a terabyte.
Yeah.
You're not going to fill up a terabyte with your JPEGs. It's not going to happen. Now, I would love if they gave me the option to upload RAW files, and I did try it, and it didn't let me do it.
Yeah.
So,
And just, I'm sorry to cut you off, but as far as space goes, I mean, I have 2 3 terabyte external hard drives that I use for backing up my RAW files. They're only each about a third filled, and I've been shooting for the past 7 years or so.
I'm over 4 terabytes now, but it's not just stills. It's a lot of videos at this point.
So a terabyte is insane.
A terabyte's an insane amount of data, but they really don't let you use it. They're giving you a terabyte, but how are you using it? You can't upload RAW files, but you can upload video. So let me say I'm a Flickr Pro, which means nothing now,
Me too.
basically.
Yeah.
Other than I'll start reading this stuff.
Yeah.
I'll try not to block my face.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is the difference between a free, ad-free, and Dslr account? There are 3 kinds of accounts to choose from on Flickr, and all of them are awesome in their own way. Bullshit. I love anyway, I'll just skip past this. Free, 1 terabyte of photos and video storage. Upload photos of up to 200 megabytes of photo. They capped that when the D800 came out. They capped it at like 30 megs. You couldn't upload anything over 30 megs. Upload 1080 HD videos up to 1 gigabyte. That's a waste. Just use YouTube. Video playback for up to 3 minutes each. That's stupid. 3 minutes? Give me a break. Why even... What they should have done is gotten rid of video altogether and said this is just photos.
So is this only for the free account?
This is the free account.
Okay.
But the free account's better than what the pro account is
Now,
at this
yeah.
point. Other than the only difference is I'll get down to, they don't even talk about it. The pro account gives you unlimited storage.
Okay.
As long as you continue to pay the whatever.
25 a month.
No, it was like
Did it go
was
up?
$24.99. Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Upload and download the full original quality. That's nice to have. Unlimited monthly bandwidth. That's good. Then there's ad free. If you pay $50 a year, you don't see any ads on the page, which I don't see ads now because I'm a Flickr Pro.
Same, yeah.
No ads in your browsing experience, all the benefits of a free account. That's $50. I don't think it's worth it to not see ads. I mean, who cares at that point? And then the Dslr is $50 a year, gives you 2 terabytes of photo and video storage. If they let you do RAW, I would gladly pay you $50 a year to let me go ahead and do that.
Yeah, you can use that as a cloud, you know?
That's exactly what I would do it for.
Yeah.
So what is this? What did I not read on the bottom of my page? Do I need to reset these cameras yet?
We're getting there.
Let's see. Oh, yes. What used to be offered with a Pro account. Flickr Pro is no longer available for purchase, but many of the Pro-only features are now part of the free Flickr accounts. Here's what you used to get with Pro. I don't really need to read that to you because you don't get it anymore. Basically... What do I now have with a free Flickr account? Basically, there's no such thing as Pro. So it's free. The free account is the same thing as a Pro. There are really no differences. Let's see. Starting 5/20/13, members of the free accounts will have 1 terabyte of space, upload and download the original file. We just read this. I'm not reading that again. I've heard that Flickr Pro is no longer being offered. How does that affect me? It really doesn't affect you because who cares? Skip past that. Your Pro pricing remains the same and your benefits have improved. So they say we can still pay for Pro.
Is it worth it though? That's
well,
the question.
Those who remain Pro will retain the original benefits, which are not as good as the free benefits.
I was going to say, at this point, it doesn't really matter.
The photo and video size time will be upgraded to those offered with our new free account. So you're telling me I'm a Pro account, yet I get all the benefits of a free account.
That's good.
Yeah. If you are a recurring Pro subscription, your payment will remain as is. To see what the current blah blah blah, Pro members will never be automatically added to that. What happened if my Pro account expires? Then basically you become a free user. So I don't really see any issues with that. How much space do I have with Flickr? With the free ad-free Flickr account, you now have 1 terabyte. With the Dslr, you have 2 terabytes. With the Flickr Pro account, you have unlimited amount of space. Again,
but are you ever going to need more
never
than a
gonna
terabyte? Yeah. So that's really the only benefit that I see that we're getting is just the unlimited amount of storage, correct?
Yeah. I mean, that's all you're getting is that unlimited amount of storage.
Which you'll never hit if you're uploading JPEGs.
No,
and
it's almost impossible to hit a terabyte of JPEGs.
Yeah.
At the current size that they are.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling. But I really come back to that whole thing about Facebook and Flickr, how Facebook is there with the photos. Everybody
it's almost
uploads it
like
there.
they should have teamed up with Facebook and did something with that. I mean,
They
if that-
couldn't.
yeah.
I mean, because they're competitors.
Yeah,
They
I
are
guess they are.
competitors. Now, the thing is, Melissa Mayer, if you want to talk about tech right now, they're looking to buy everything. Right now, they're going to see if they can buy Hulu. They just spent $1.1 billion on Tumblr.
I saw that.
I don't understand that. Tumblr doesn't make money. Tumblr was on their last 3 months of funds.
Yeah.
They didn't have any money left. They've never wanted to put ads into Tumblr. It's like a WordPress type thing. You get your blog, you can do that, you can tumble and all that. Whatever. They're taking risks right now.
I feel like if they would have bought Tumblr, say 2 years ago when it was I mean, I know it's still actively being used.
It's being used a
24/7.
ton.
Yeah, but I just feel like that's when the moment hit where everyone you knew had a Tumblr and were using it on a daily basis all the time.
The reason they bought it is because of how many clicks it gets.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people looking, which means they can serve a lot of ads to it, which means they can turn that into revenue. But people in the community will be up in arms about advertisements showing up for the first time, but it is what it is. What Flickr is trying to do is stay alive. Flickr is doing original content, which isn't too good. They want to buy Hulu so that they can generate their own content and serve it. Because every time you serve content, you can put ads on it. That's what it is. I mean, I know we're talking tech and not photo here, but that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to stay relevant.
How much do you think Hulu would cost? I think Hulu would be way more than Tumblr.
Well, you're buying the rights and the content.
Exactly.
But a lot of people want to buy Hulu. Time Warner wants to buy Hulu, which was formerly Apple. Not Apple, AOL is what I meant to say.
There's got to be a nice price tag
It's
on
a
that.
lot of money, but nobody's wanted it. It's been for sale for a while. Nobody probably could have afforded it. I mean, it's a changing world. It's all about this content again.
Yeah.
It's about original content. TVs are going to be pay as you go. ABC now has a streaming app finally. Because why shouldn't we be able to stream ABC to our iPads?
Yeah. I've been doing the HBO to Go app for quite some time on my iPad.
HBO
for
Go
years.
is great.
And they put it out when it should have been out, when every single channel should have had that.
Yeah, and the only problem with HBO Go at the beginning was you couldn't mirror it to your Apple TV. Now you can, which is the best thing ever. When I can put the iPad in the corner and have it put a movie up on the screen is awesome. So you're going to see a time where HBO becomes a standalone subscription. You won't need cable channel. You won't need cable TV because it's going to be paying a la carte. You're going to get what you want. It's going to take time, but we're almost there.
Yeah.
So that's the Flickr discussion. Will I continue to pay for it? I don't see why in the world I would continue to pay for it. I don't gain any benefits, and they also take away your pro badge. So there's really no.
You don't get the little pro button at the
You don't get that little
top.
pro badge anymore, which doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I want to see them give me storage.
Yeah.
Let me use that 1 terabyte. Don't
whatever you want is what you're saying.
I want to use it to upload my raw files.
Yeah.
So yes, for whatever I want.
Yeah, and it should be. I mean, if you're going to get that much storage, why not? If you're paying for it.
Look, you know what you could do? If they did do that, see what they would be worried about is I could just open 4 Flickr accounts.
You mean free accounts?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I get 4 terabytes.
4 terabytes,
then.
yeah. Get
Right?
4 different Gmail addresses, and there you go.
4 different Yahoo mail addresses.
Or Yahoo mail addresses, yeah.
Get 4 different email addresses, and you're off to the races. They know that nobody's going to fill up 1 terabyte. How the hell are you going to fill up 2 terabytes? Or are you going to double that unless you give us room to... And even if you uploaded videos, they can only be 1 gig maximum.
Yeah.
You have to upload 1,000 of those 1 gigs to fill up your terabyte.
Yeah.
And they can only be 3 minutes long. All right, we beat that dead horse. So I don't think Melissa Mayer said anything wrong.
No, I agree.
She just made a misstatement. And then the last thing before we get into our interview with Adam Lerner that we recorded a few days ago, I got an email, and it was from a guy, I don't remember his name right now, but he said he was looking forward to going to the my air just kicked on.
I heard it.
Well, I didn't know it was getting that hot in here. Anyway.
I'm sorry, I walked in. So.
Steven. Oh, yes. Steven got us hot in here. So the email was along the lines like, I was looking to go to the New York Institute of Photography. First off, there is no freaking New York Institute of Photography in New York. It's an online course. It's a name. Somebody bought the rights to a name.
It's a name branded well enough to
Yes, because
attract.
people think you're going to be, so they wanted to go there. I don't think they could afford it. So then they were asked, is there a New York Institute of Photography, by the way?
I have
Do you
no
even know?
idea.
Maybe
Could
it's
be.
there in New York. I don't know. But I thought there was an online course that was the same. I could be wrong, but whatever. Even if it was in New York, who cares? They were saying that he couldn't afford to go there, and he's worried that if he gets a degree from his school locally, that he won't get jobs. And that caused me to sit here and write this response.
What was your response, Jared?
My response was, people don't hire photographers because of a piece of paper that says they graduated. They hire you because of your work, period. Spelled out, period. Followed by a period. That is the truth. Nobody in their right mind is going to hire somebody because they have a diploma or a degree. A certificate that says, I went to so-and-so school, when somebody else's work is better. It all comes down to your work. What is printed on your photos? What do your photos look like?
I was going to say, too, you went to Antonelli,
yes.
Obviously. How many people that you graduated with would you say are full-time working photographers versus who you know didn't go to school that are full-time photographers?
Well, that's a good question, Stephen.
You know?
Because I don't know that many that didn't go to school that became full-time, or that I know.
Yeah.
There are some that just taught themselves, but my statement wasn't a thing saying don't go to school. Mine was saying you can learn a shit ton in school.
Just saying you're not going to get hired specifically only because of that.
Like RIT.
Yeah.
RIT was a huge school for photography. RT, reciprocity failure, all of this other stuff. It was $25,000 a year at the time, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I knew a girl who was going there, and she doesn't have like photo gigs now.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to, back in the day, RIT, with all the alumni, you could have gotten set up somewhere. Doesn't matter anymore. Eastman Kodak, does that matter?
Kodak doesn't really
what
exist
is Kodak,
anymore.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, hello, goodbye, and that's all she wrote about that. But if you're going to go, school is a good thing if it fits for what you're doing. I love what Stephen has as an education in terms of you had some business classes.
Yeah. We were talking about how I did media law.
Which
taught me a lot about just copyright laws and just libel, stuff like that.
You had audio, you had video, you had photography. You have a cross section. If I was to go to school today, I would pick I say this before, a big 4-year school. I would take business classes. I'd take photography. I'd take web design, maybe even not web design, but I would take marketing. I would take advertising. I would take all and some of those law things so that you have an education and you understand what's going on.
Because to me, that was one of the biggest things that I was so confused about, and that really cleared up what I was confused about specifically.
I love school, but I hated school. I didn't really hate school. I loved school, but I
hated and loved it at the same time. It's a love-hate thing, for sure.
I love learning.
Yeah.
I love learning with good teachers, because when you get those bad teachers that just sit there and read out of a book. I went back to school to take a class once at a local community college because I wanted to do web design. Mm-hmm. And I thought that I'm like, yeah, I'm 26. I've graduated from school before. I just want to come back. I just want to take this class to learn. And I get there and you get a good bunch of kids that don't give a shit.
Yep.
And they just waste their time. And it started off great. The teacher was drawing HTML stuff on the board and going, these are these tags, these are important. And then it was, go do assignment 1 in the book.
Read the book.
Then go do assignment 2 in the book.
Yep.
And I sat there and I stopped going. I said, screw this. I said, I come to school to learn from a professional. I want to learn from you, not from the book. And that to me is what school is all about. That's why I teach the way that I teach. That's why I gravitate towards the teachers that taught similarly, that they teach. They don't sit there and read a book. You don't learn photography in a book. You don't learn you do learn HTML because a lot of people do read that stuff and learn from it. But I want to I want to be taught, and I want to have discussions. Mm-hmm. I love discussions. And if I was in that law class, boy, oh boy, would that teacher have a problem with me. Because I would question everything and then play the devil's advocate.
Yeah, she would have definitely loved that.
But that's what I do. I want to see every angle because I would have been a great lawyer. I love breaking it down. You say this, but what about in this situation? I understand what you're saying, but again, lawyers have a way, for any of you lawyers out there, lawyers have a way of making anything work to suit whatever their need is. Do they need a new law? They find a loophole.
Yeah, right.
Right?
And just going back to, being taught by a professional and someone that is working in that industry, that kind of stuff. The nice thing about my school was that a lot of the people they hired were professionals. For example, I had a radio broadcast class, which I had one of the broadcasters from KYW that is on the air right now.
Who?
What is his
Yuki
name?
Washington?
You put me on the spot. He does the business reports.
Tom Lancer?
No, keep going. Anyway, that guy, one of the guys, I forget his name. I'm really bad with names.
Fred Sherman.
But anyway, he was our teacher. He was been in the industry for 30 years, been with KYW, and now he actually teaches everyone that comes into KYW and does at the school. Also, my photojournalist teacher. He's a photographer for all the papers around here, Daily Times, Gloucester County Times, etc. And then my media law teacher, she was a lawyer.
Right, and the same thing with Antonelli, is they are all working professionals. So if you're looking to turn it back to a school thing, if you are looking to go to a school, then you just make sure that they were good, Steven. I think we're good. You make sure that you have you make sure you know the teachers are working professionals. That's the key. That's what it's all about. And I think that's it for that, Steven.
Yeah.
So coming up now, thank you for your news.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the discussion. It's time for an interview with Adam Lerner, and then we will come back and wrap up this episode 37. And enjoy this conversation because Adam was in Cuba. Not many Americans get to go to Cuba, or however you want to say it anymore, because we have an embargo. You can't really go directly, but you can go if it's an exchange program. So Adam went, so happened to go with Zach Arias, a bunch of other photographers that were there as well, and you're going to hear about his experience. So let's roll that footage and audio. Hey there, Adam. Welcome to my loft.
Good to be here. Nice place you got.
Thank you. You liking it?
I'm enjoying watching the traffic go by and got some great light in here, great detail. It's very cool.
Yeah. How was your trip down from New York?
It was fine. Very simple.
Yeah?
Yeah. We're like practically neighbors. It's like Philly is like kind of like a borough of New York at this point.
Oh, yeah?
Sorry, anybody in Philly that I might have just angered.
Hey, it happened. So the fun thing that you're here to talk about is you went to Cuba.
Cuba.
Habana, Cuba? How was it?
Cuba was amazing. It was like, it's a place I'd always wanted to visit. So getting a chance to go was pretty incredible. And actually going with a group of photographers was really cool because everybody there, like me, was just thinking about taking pictures, like living, eating, sleeping, breathing photography the whole time we were there. And the cool thing is that we got to connect with a lot of local photographers and photography organizations that were native to Cuba, which we, as Americans, we would never normally get access to. And while down there, we got to see some photography that some of the best photography I've ever seen, which, was kind of amazing.
Well, what are they shooting with? Are they, they don't have a lot of the amenities that we have here. We know that they still drive around in those old cars. Are they still shooting old film?
Well, there are
cameras, old film cameras.
Of course. Look, there's plenty of purists that are out there, but most photographers have graduated to digital. A lot of photographers, have the ability to travel or people can bring things to them. So if somebody's coming to visit from Canada or from Europe or something like that, they can bring stuff.
So you really can't go from the U.S. unless you have a special visa.
Exactly. I'm not an expert on this in any way whatsoever. But if you want to go right now, there's a whole bunch of different organizations. There's what they call like person-to-person cultural exchanges. You can go, there's certain religious groups, there's certain charitable groups. So there's a whole multitude of ways. And what they do is they kind of take care of all the permitting, they take care of all the entry and all that kind of thing. And they typically charter a flight down there. So you basically have to get yourself to the point where, the charter's going to leave. And then from there, they kind of organize everything else.
So I know you've wanted to go to Cuba for a long time. Where did that fascination come from?
I honestly can't pin it onto any one thing, but I have to say that probably like the advent of the Buena Vista Social Club, just seeing like the music, I loved like that whole Afro-Cuban music, and just seeing like some of the scenes and like all the old buildings and like just, how vibrant the city was, full of culture and full of music. And just, the thing that's really interesting about it is that because the city hasn't really been hasn't really been commercialized, it still kind of maintains the same sort of look that it's had for the last 60 years. So it's kind of timeless. If you were to shoot black and white there right now, you could probably, between the people and the cars, shoot some stuff that looks like it was maybe shot 50 years ago. So there's something about that where the backdrop, the landscape hasn't really changed. Although the people, they've certainly, they don't have the internet like, let's say, we do. but they have the same kind of wants and needs and desires as we do. They all kind of want the same thing.
So did anything majorly surprise you? Something you weren't expecting? The way of life?
I think that I think what I found is that I felt like a tremendous glutton when I went there. You realize that when you're in a place like that, you really don't have access to very much of anything at all. You can't just like run to the supermarket and there's like 25 different types of breakfast cereal for you. There's very few options. There's very few choices.
Oh, I just got an idea. I'm interrupting and people will yell at me for doing that. But are there Castro Flakes?
I don't even know why I even laughed at that. It's not even funny.
Ari, was that funny? Castro Flakes weren't funny? Jaleel, Castro Flakes? No?
No.
Adam?
No.
All right, next, back to the show.
But there was Castro's Revenge for some of us that ate food that didn't agree with us. Anyway.
Really? You had Monte Castro's Revenge?
We had Monte Castro's Revenge. But that's a whole different thing. Anyway, the thing is that you go to a place like that and you realize that, you like around here, you have people that are tethered to their iPhones. They're constantly checking Facebook and Instagram and emailing back and forth. And if somebody doesn't get back to you within a few seconds, you think there's something wrong with them. Like, how could somebody possibly not, email me back or whatever? There, it's different. I mean, people certainly have cell phones, but the whole mentality is a little bit different. I think that people are more connected to each other and not just, connected virtually. And I think that housing is a real big issue there. So there's a lot of people that are like living in very tight quarters. And people don't have stuff. I mean, it's like you don't, people there don't go into their closet and have like 25 pairs of like tennis shoes and, have all these things that we've amassed and we've accumulated. They don't have 50, 500 channels on TV.
Do they even have TV?
Yeah, I mean, there is some TV there, but the thing is that I think what it made me realize is that, that you can get by with a lot less. And my mentality as a photographer certainly shifted a bit. The idea to just slow down, to be more purposeful, to really kind of appreciate more of what you're doing instead of just thinking like, okay, I've got a 32, gig memory card and I can just shoot as much as I want. That despite the fact that I've got that space, I still want to make sure that every image that I'm going to take is not only purposeful, but actually that I'm really paying attention to what I'm shooting. And I think that when you go to a place like that, the compulsion is to want to just shoot everything. Like your mind is blown away. I mean, you look around, you see all these incredible, beautiful cars. You see the beautiful architecture. You see really interesting people, and it's so ethnically diverse there, and people are really friendly, and like you're kind of overstimulated, so you just kind of want to shoot as much as you can. And once you kind of get that out of your system and you start to see things, then you start to see interactions. And then what I found is that once I really slowed down, and in some ways was a little bit selfish in that as much as I wanted to be buddies with the people on my tour, I realized that I really was there to make photographs for myself, that I would slow down, I would take the time, I would wait for the composition, I would wait for the interaction, I would introduce myself to that person that I really wanted to get the shot from. When that kind of little thing clicked in my brain, the quality of my photographs, in my opinion, for myself, improved dramatically. And that is something that I also felt that I want to take to anything that I do now, that if I'm going to go into a new shooting situation, that rather than thinking like, oh my God, you start feeling that pressure welling up in you to think, wait a second, remember, you really only need to get a couple of great shots here. So take your time, think about it, and kind of remember that mind space that you kind of learned when you were in Cuba.
So do you think a lot during the trip was attributed to not being connected any longer to the internet, not having to worry about it? Because you knew that you couldn't even connect. You could barely connect. And when I finally accepted that, which happened very quickly, it was a liberating thing because it was something that I didn't even have to think about. I didn't even have to worry about it. So I really focused all of my time and energy on photography and taking photographs. And the other thing that was great is that I was with this wonderful group of people. So we traveled around together. We went to meals together. We hung out after dinner and, had drinks together. And just all we did was talk and share our photographs with each other. We helped each other edit. And one of the best things that happened there, too, is that a few days into it, we were tasked with a portfolio presentation. So what that meant is that every individual there was going to have to present 6 of what they considered their best images in a portfolio. And the portfolio was going to be projected on a screen for everybody. And there was 2 groups of people there, so there's about 30 different people and the group leaders. So when I was tasked to do that, I realized that not only did I want to choose what I felt was good work, but I also wanted something to be cohesive, something that really spoke about my experience, in Cuba.
And again, that was another one of those experiences where I realized that if you take the time to slow down and you don't think to yourself, I'm just going to choose this because it's the best, or this one is the coolest, or this is my best of every day. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied into any kind of a temporal time frame like that. I actually said, I want something cohesive. And I'm really proud of what I did. And I think I was partly influenced by this this photographer, Raul Canabano. Sorry. And if I'm mispronouncing the name, I apologize. But they showed us his photography like early on. And it was just some of the best photography. Honestly, like all of us there were just so blown away that like I honestly wanted to just take my camera and just leave it behind. Just be like, no, I don't deserve this thing right now. But there was something about his photography where, like, you know how you always talk about filling the frame? He would fill the frame with multi-layers of things going on right in front of him. And every shot was like that. And it was just mind-blowing that somebody could just see this, you know, in a photojournalistic sense, but he would see things that were just amazing. And that also helped to shift my mentality to slow down, really start seeing things. And that's why I decided to treat my portfolio black and white, to remove the color information and those kinds of maybe distractions.
So would you go back again?
Oh my God. I mean, now that I know what the deal is, like I know that I can stay somewhere for $35 a night. I know that I can get a sandwich for $2.
But you just have to be able to get there.
Right. And the people were amazing. I mean, when you told people, you know, because they knew that we weren't from there. But if you were friendly,
way. You don't fit in?
No, we fit in. But I mean, if you were friendly and you were courteous and you introduced yourself to people, people were really warm. And people would invite you into their homes. It was such a remarkable thing because I don't think that crime is really a big thing. I think people are fairly trusting, and they really wanted to engage. And as much as like I tried to speak Spanish with people, they really wanted us to practice their English, which was like a huge relief.
Sure. I was going to say the interaction part. You know, it's a military country still,
right.
Correct? It's communist.
Sure.
You have to ask people permission, or I mean, you really don't want to. You may not be allowed to take pictures of certain things. Were there any restrictions? What
absolutely.
were the restrictions?
Well, the thing is that you absolutely cannot photograph any kind of a police officer or military personnel whatsoever. And the one thing that they impressed upon us is that anything that we do that's remotely illegal, that they, you know, they can't help us. Like that we are out, you know, that they're out of our hands at that point. Not that any of us had that kind of intent, but there were also parameters like not shooting police officers. There were certain buildings.
You never want to shoot police officers.
Exactly.
With guns.
And particularly when you're in a foreign country, you know, you have to be, you know, maybe additionally respectful. And
yeah,
really,
because you don't want that typical American stigma that comes along that you hear about this. We got that when we were in Europe. Yeah. People were like, when we're like, where can we go to eat? They're like, oh, the McDonald's is around the corner.
Right.
And we just were like, well, we don't want to go to McDonald's. Not all Americans just go there for every single meal.
And that's one of the things that I also took home with me is that, you know, when you do travel like that, being respectful and also kind of being open-minded because you are in a foreign place. So just try things. You know, what's the worst thing? You might not like it, but at least you're going to say that you experienced the culture of another people. You're not going to go there and you're not going to find Starbucks. You're not going to find McDonald's.
So
you're not going to find Walgreens.
You love coffee.
Oh, the Cuban coffee is ridiculous. I could barely drink it. It was so strong. You know, you can get like Mexican Coke if you want it. They had other sodas, just a handful of different beers. The rum is really what they're known for. And what I didn't realize is that all of the rum that they have is aged in American bourbon barrels, which actually gives it its flavor. But they get the barrels from Canada and Europe and whatnot. So rum's a big component. But we were so busy and having so much fun with photography that like the drinking aspect wasn't really a big deal. And the food is kind of bland. It's not like amazing food. I mean, we had some good food, but it's certainly not a place where you would go for a culinary experience.
No. Now, everybody wants to know about Cuban cigars.
And, you know, that's the other thing. I really am not a huge cigar smoker. I tried a couple cigars and like, it's just not for me. And I felt bad because, you know, I have friends that are huge cigar aficionados. And here I am, like, I can just buy like any top of the line cigar, like the most coveted cigar, and I can just buy it. But, you know, there were people that were smoking them. And, you know, because of the kind of country it is, you can kind of smoke anywhere, which, you know, is not so great.
Sure.
We did go to a tobacco farm or plantation where like this local farmer guy like rolled cigars for us, and they were kind of mild, but I mean, cigars are definitely prevalent, and obviously there's something about that is a huge part of their economy.
So you were telling me, I think you were telling me, there's a guy who goes and gets old developer chemicals.
Oh.
Tell me that story.
Yeah, well, one of the photographers who is a friend of ours, a guide, this guy Ramses, he's an amazing photographer there, and he's somebody who, like, you could literally like go into a restaurant and like you'll see his photographs just hanging, and it happens often because he's a very well-known photographer there, and he's a really super nice guy. And when he was first kind of cutting his teeth as a photographer, he had this old film camera. I don't recall what he had, but film and batteries, like anything, like basic commodities, are so hard to get that what he would do is he would get movie film, like 35 millimeter, like rolls of dead stock, and he would, go into a dark place. I don't think he even had a dark room, and he would kind of measure it out with his arms to kind of figure out what was like approximately 36 exposures. He would reuse film canisters that he already had, and then he would go to like the local hospital and he would get used X-ray film developer so that he could develop his film. And because of the type of film stock and the developer, he knew exactly what kind of results, like these kind of really contrasty images. But that was the only way that he knew to be able to make photographs. So I think that people there are very resourceful because they just don't have access to things. I mean, you look at the cars, you look at how people have preserved these cars for 50, 60 years, and they really rely on their ingenuity and what they have.
So you rode around in a bunch of cars. Did you like commission a car?
We did, actually. I mean, you can get into like a 1950s, Chevy cab and pay $4 to kind of go anywhere. And like, they hold up to like
$4? Something
like that.
Is that what money? You were telling me about the money. Hold off on the money, but what money they used while you were there.
Right. Well, I'll hold off on the money. But anyway, you can get into one of those cabs and kind of go anywhere. And there's shared cabs. So that means that like you could just get in with a whole bunch of random people or a big group of people. And then like around the hotel district where we were, there's a lot of guys and gals that have, these old classic American car convertibles where for like $30, you can hire one for an hour and, they'll take you around. And we did that, me and 3 other guys, we brought our cameras and, the guy gave us this really great tour and took us to all these like places around the city that we hadn't seen, which was really nice. And again, we had a great tour guide. The guy was like really stoked to speak English and, it was just a lot of fun. And like, you think about any of that kind of thing that you were to do in another city. I mean, they would charge you $100 or something like that. So even the things that are deemed really touristy are still not very expensive. So once you get to Cuba, you can have a great experience without spending a lot of money. And if you ask around, like people know each other, people are connected. Like, let's say you wanted to stay in some rooms in this part of the city, but then you wanted to travel here, like somebody would know somebody and they'd call and find you somewhere else to stay. Like they definitely want to help you out there. We had a really fun night where we went to like an after hours, like Cuban club where people were dancing like salsa and like we were the only non-Cubans there and they couldn't have been nicer. Like we were just kind of welcomed in there. We were dancing and partying with everybody. So there was no point, honestly, where I felt like I was being kind of ostracized because I was, not Cuban.
So how do you make the decision? Because you didn't know anybody. You just went.
Right.
You just went on your own and you decided, hey, this trip's coming up. I want to take part in it. I want to make sure that, I don't know. It's just something you always wanted to do.
It's one of those things that, a lot of the sanctions have been lifted. Cuba has, Raul Castro has definitely allowed for a lot more free enterprise. And, as a result, the country is changing. The economy is starting to change over there. A lot of the younger generation no longer is getting into like the agrarian and other kinds of lifestyles. So I think, in our lifetime, probably in the next, probably 10, 20 years, it's going like a lot more restrictions will be lifted to the point where there'll be a lot more commerce there. There'll be a lot more commercialism. And what the old Cuba is will probably really start to continue to vanish.
Yeah, it's time.
Yeah.
I mean, it honestly is. I mean, we know that this administration has pulled back on some of the restrictions. Right. It's going to become a tourist destination again. It's 90 miles from Miami.
It's amazing.
You just hop a
41-minute flight from Miami.
And you're there.
You're there. And the thing is, like, I was just thinking, like, if this flight was from New York, I'd go to there like a few times a year.
Yeah.
It's
How
a lot.
did it compare to Aruba?
Well, it doesn't. Aruba is kind of culturally devoid because they've kind of taken, this beautiful little island nation and they've sterilized it for American tourism so that the ugly American that just wants to have Starbucks and hamburgers can just go there, and just let it all hang out. Cuba, on the other hand, you have to be a more adventurous traveler. You have to be willing to do with a lot less as a traveler.
So the room, you were telling me about the room compared to what we had in Germany. How was it?
Well, that was the one thing. It was a little bit excessive for me. Part of what, going through one of these tours is that, it's a little bit expensive and it's definitely designed for people that are, that have a little bit of extra money, not myself, but, that was certainly a component of it. So they put us in one of the finer hotels in central Havana and the hotel was gorgeous. And my room was like, I don't know, maybe 600 square feet. I mean, it was way more than I needed considering how little time I actually spent in there, but it was beautiful and the hotel was great. And it had this fantastic lobby that it was a huge lobby bar and there was live music and people smoking cigars and drinking. And that provided a really great place for all of us to congregate and just all the time, any time of day or night, there was a bunch of us down there, just talking about photography.
So everybody I'm sure wants to know gear. What gear did you take with you and how did you come to that decision?
That's a great thing. I brought my Nikon D3S and I brought the, I don't know what Trinity we'd call it, the Cubano Trinity. I brought the 35 f2, the 50-1.4, and the 85-1.4. I also brought the Fuji X100S. I did bring some speed lights. I brought an infrared trigger. I brought a little Gorilla Pod. In hindsight, I probably would just go with the X100S and maybe another mirrorless camera system that had interchangeable lenses, preferably like an X Pro 1 or something of that nature, largely because you're doing so much traveling, you're on your feet so much of the day that having so much gear and heavy gear, I found to be a little bit restrictive. Flashes, I wouldn't bring any flashes. I wouldn't bring any modifiers. The light there is absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous. And I would keep my gear as simple as possible. I'm not suggesting that having a DSLR there is a bad thing, but I really like the idea of even stealthily, like I remember there were points where like I'd be on the street and I'd like crouch into a position to get a shot and I'd have my X100S and nobody would even notice. Like it was just like there was nothing happening there because it's such a little stealthy camera. Whereas you see somebody like another one of the guys on my trip, he had the D4, and the big 2470, or another guy had a 1DX with like the giant 85 on that. And it just has a certain kind of like professional equipment look about it, with the giant bag that accompanies it. So I think that going forward, doing that kind of travel and even further travel, like if I were to go to other places like maybe Hong Kong or India or whatever, I would certainly want to keep my gear to an absolute minimum and carry with me as little as possible.
Sure. I mean, I know that's tough for me personally, but when you're limited to just one thing, it's perfectly fine.
I think in your case, bringing the D4 would be perfectly fine, and I know how you use it. I think though that the 70-200, even though it's your magical lens, I think that you would think twice some days about wanting to carry it around with you.
Right.
Unless you were specifically going out for something that you were going to use that lens for. It's just a lot to carry. And it's like 90 degrees and like 90% humidity.
So
the streets are really narrow.
Like Israel. I went through Israel and I had a backpack and I had the Hebrew Trinity, but it's 98 degrees, 95 degrees, but zero humidity.
Sure.
So it's
still hot.
Yeah, you're still trekking with it.
Right. And again, I'm not discouraging anybody from bringing the gear that they know and love, but I would just say that if you lay all your gear out and you think you got too much, you probably do. And you can really get by with a lot less. And it also depends on what you're shooting. I went there to shoot people. And I did a lot of street shots and a lot of portraits. And I feel that I could have done with, a little bit less gear. If you're a landscape photographer and you need to have like really wide angle lenses, it really just depends on the type of photography. But I think that the other thing too, that the less gear you have, the less you're thinking about like, oh, well, maybe I should put this lens on this lens. Going out, like half the time I just went out with the D3S and the 50 on it and my X100S, and that's all I brought with me, and I was perfectly happy that way.
And when you're not worried about 18 million choices, you can focus on just capturing the images with what you have.
Right.
And that's something that we constantly harp on with people. It's like, don't worry about 5 lenses until you master the one lens that you have, and then challenge yourself to just stick to one lens. I mean, we challenge ourselves all the time to go out whether it's taking the D7100 or using Instagram or using a Instax camera, just using the very basic tool that you have.
Yep.
It's a challenge because it takes you back. You have to think different.
Yeah, and I would have loved to have seen some of the folks on that trip have just walking around with the 50 millimeter on their cameras, because I felt that there was a lot of people out there that was so excited that they just kept swapping lenses, and I'm like, you're not even looking, you're not even enjoying. Like, there was a component in me that I wanted to take it in. Like, I didn't want to see the entire country through my lens.
Yeah.
I wanted to actually enjoy it and meet people, and I think I was somewhat economical about my photography, and at the end of the day, I still love what I got. And our days were so crazy long that each one of us would get back, unload our cards, and be like, I don't even remember taking that shot. Like, I know I was there, I knew I took it, but I didn't even remember because so many things happened. I met so many amazing people. I saw so many incredible things between this time and that picture seemed like it happened like days ago. And that's what the experience was like. So that every time you unloaded your card, you were just so incredibly pleased and excited because you saw things in there that you encountered that just, happened along the way.
So what is next on your list for places to go shoot?
I think Hong Kong would be amazing.
Hong Kong or Australia?
Well, no, Australia has always been on my list.
How about both? Because aren't they?
Yeah.
Are they close to each other?
Well,
they're like 12 hours apart by air.
I think that if you're going to fly that far, you could certainly go to Hong Kong and Australia or vice versa. I mean, there's areas of Hong Kong that I'd love to see. I think that, as far as like street shots and portraits and people shots, I think that Hong Kong would be amazing. Australia is also one of those incredible places. And, I have a lot of friends down there, so I'm sure that I could help to get like a little bit of an insider's view there. Maybe we should go and do a little workshop action down there.
I mean, it's a place that I've always wanted to go, but the only thing that worries me is that everything there can kill you. Everything.
Well,
it's like that little ant. You're dead. If it touches you, you're dead. You're it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that if you're going to travel into the outback or into the jungle, I mean, you could travel into the desert here, or whatever, in the swamps in South Carolina or whatever, and there's stuff that's going to kill you.
Welcome to the jungle.
Exactly. I wouldn't worry about that part. I mean, I think the thing is that, if you traveled somewhere like India, like hygiene and bacterial stuff, and like there's certain things like
Brandon went to India. Brandon did work. Brandon from Alan's Camera.
Right.
He was there for a couple months doing work, and he's like, when we would go out to eat, it's scoop your hand into the thing, put it on your plate, and everybody's scooping their hand. He's like, I stayed in the hotel and I ate. And he's like, just unbelievable. They just scoop stuff out and just throw it on their plate.
Unfortunately, on our trip, I don't know. We're trying to pinpoint it down, but they brought us to this restaurant the very first night, and a lot of people got some tummy troubles, and myself included. I wasn't really that badly affected, but what I did realize is that when you're traveling, you do not want tummy troubles.
No,
because particularly you're in a place where it's like you don't have easy access to stuff. And you also want to maximize your time. You don't want to do anything. So I know going forward that if something doesn't look right, I'm not going to put it anywhere near my mouth.
And that is a good thing to live by. If it doesn't look right, it's not going near my mouth. And if it doesn't
smell right.
So I think that's pretty cool, Adam. A lot of information there about the trip. I want to go. I need to just force myself to do some of these things and travel and go and just experience something out of my comfort zone.
Well, I think that that's really also probably an overarching thing, is that being able to go somewhere and really experience the people is amazing, because I made connections with people and photographers and Cuban people and Cuban photographers that I never would have otherwise had the chance to do. And I'm sure that the same would be true if we went to Hong Kong. If we went to Australia, we would make connections with people. And sometimes all it takes is just a few days or a week or so. And it really kind of separates yourself from like the daily grind, like everything that you think is so important. And then you go to do something like that and you're like, wow, I really should travel more and get away from all this stuff. So it's a good balance.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming down and seeing the loft and telling everybody about your Cuba experience.
My pleasure.
All right.
We'll
see you. All right, guys, thank you for listening to this week's or watching this week's Raw Talk episode 37. Hope you enjoyed this conversation with Adam Lerner. This is my goal, to get more people around the Raw Talk table to do interviews. But if not, Steven and I hold down a killer conversation about whatever is happening in this week in, I don't want to say this week in photo. I don't want to say TWIP. I got banned from TWIP. I've been banned from that show. So find out, check out episode 300 and 301 on TWIP, This Week in Photo. I know, you'll see why. I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve to be banned. I seriously
haven't watched
didn't.
it. I got to check it out now.
Yeah, you listen to it because you can't watch it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't. Anyway, we'll continue on here. So yeah, that's it. That's episode blah blah blah. Episode 37. Thank you to allenscamera.com. Check them out if you're in the United States of the America. They can help you out. Go to their website. Tell them I sent you. I want to thank Borrow Lenses. They sent me out that 1DX. 8512, 24 to 70, 2.8, and 70 to 200, 2.8 version 2. That's killer. And I don't know, nobody else. I want to thank me. Thank me, Jared. Thank you, Steven. Thank you guys out there. Coming up June 1st, 2013. That is the anniversary of the website. So keep an eye out for some interesting things and some sales going on in the stores. And we're going to call it a day. There you guys have it. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.